Welcome everybody, thanks for joining us today as we continue to look at SysML2 and Trechoro. My name's Scott Hubbard, I'm joined by Stephen Maguire today, and we're going to be looking at the behavioural view of actions. So welcome Stephen, what can you tell us about the behavioural view of actions?
Thanks for the introduction, Scott, and always a pleasure to be here. Yeah, let's take a look at this repository. This is the Welcome to the Trechoro Modeling Capability repository that comes shipped with this preview or sort of pre-alpha version of the Trechoro tool. So just very quickly, as an introduction to this, and I haven't done this in the previous video, but I thought I might as well show you. And this isn't, we haven't built in actions yet, but this model comes with a whole lot of different diagrams that show how to actually create the model. So for example, creating part definitions, what I can do is simply click on this little navigation cell. This is like a button that I can click on. I can preview it from the bottom right-hand corner icon there, and it shows me a diagram of what of what will come up when I open that. So let me just open that that diagram. It's quite a simple one, and now let me go to the start ribbon, the collaboration panel, and this journal window. So clicking in the diagram now gives me a whole lot of notes about the tool, and we might change this a little bit, Scott. With this is a pre-alpha version, so we might do some work on this, but at the moment, for the current release, this is the actions that you need to perform, the tool sort of steps to create a part definition in a diagram. So ensure the SysML2 diagram is open, from the SysML toolbox, drag and drop a part definition, etc. So that's just a little bit of a talk about how this repository works and what its intention is. But let's go now and look at what we did in the previous video. And just to recap, we looked at this provide power action, and we've got a diagram now that's got the action definitions on them. And again, I talked about this being like a sandwich model where the bread is the outer with the action defs, both at the top of the diagram, and then a series of them at the bottom of the diagram as well. And in between, we have the action usages in at this layer here. We also talked about the fact that we've got these little parameter boxes on the side of these elements, and they tell us that there's things coming in, and this one's an item, and there's something going out, which is a reference here. So what we need to do is build up this view, this action view, flow view. So let's have a look at that. And what we've done is we're reusing, we don't have to create these elements again, we're reusing the elements that we created in that structural view, and we're putting them together, we're stitching them together, if you like, in a way that is a behavioral view. Now, there are a number of different things in this diagram. We've got the actions, and this action contains other actions, and so this outer action, excuse me, is a action that's got these other actions actually as elements. And if we can look at that, we go back and we can see that this one here as a property is a feature membership. So this one is a feature membership, and our usages are feature typing relationships. So that's what's going on. These ones are inside. These are all actions here, but these ones are contained inside the provide power. And that makes sense just on a narrative level, that we're providing power. And how are we providing that power? Well, we've got this fuel command coming in. We generate some torque. We amplify that torque, transfer the torque, distribute the torque, and it ends up pushing the car along the road through this wheel-to-road torque interface there. So that's what's going on. One thing I do want to just quickly mention on here, Scott, so you can see it, is there are two different types of relationships here, and that's kind of important. This one here has got the arrow on it, and if we look in the toolbox, we say that's a flow usage between the different actions at this level here. But the two that are on the outside of this thing look a little different. They don't have arrows on them, and they've got this little equal sign underneath them, which is, this is a binding connector. And that's a different relationship. So you're binding something from the outside. And I think back in when SysML 1.5 was built on top of the UML, I think this was like a delegate relationship or something like that. But basically, what you're saying is you're delegating the work to this internal action. That may not be the right word, but that's the kind of concept of it. That the provide power itself isn't doing it. It's got these internal actions that are doing the work. So
Yes.
Look, we've talked a bit enough about this now. Let's go in and look at our other repository and show how we can create this diagram. So I'm going to drag this repository off the screen, and I've got the one that we were working on. So if you haven't watched the previous video that's talking about the structural view of actions, then I encourage you to go back and look at that quickly, or refer to it after you've seen this. So what we did was we built up a number of these elements. We didn't do all of that. So as we were building it up, we just built up the things that we needed to work with. Remember that the important part about this is these little parameters on the side of these elements, and you can see I've got them listed in a compartment there
Yes.
in the action definition, and I've also added them to the diagram. But the important thing about those parameters, Scott, is that if I click on this, I can see them in the features window, this reference one, and I reiterate this again. It's important that you, let me just click off that element for a minute and click back on that one. It's important that you define these elements, and I just have to look at this for a minute. What's going on? We've lost that connector there. I'll choose it there. You can see that the parameter has got a direction, and this is an in parameter, and
Yes.
the element is actually an item, so it's a power command. And I said before that items are things to think about in the easiest way. You know, like verbs are doing words that you learnt in, year
Yes.
2 or 3 at school. Items are things that can flow through a system. So, a gas, a liquid in a fluid, in a tank, or in a pipe. It could be electrical command that's flowing through. It could be, all sorts of different things that can flow through a system. So if we look at that, we look at an item under there with that one selected, we'll see that power command's an item. But we've got these exposed. The other thing I mentioned was the fact that we've got these feature typing relationships here. And so these action usages inherit, if you like, the items and references from the action definition, and that's at all levels, Scott. We can see that happening at this level as well. So let's go and create our diagram. I'm going to call this one an action flow. So again, provide power there, model views. I'll create another diagram. Simply go up to that one. General view is going to be fine. That's defaulted to the name of the package, and so I'll call this one an action. Let's call it provide power. Provide. I'll call it provide power action flow. I think I've got a space in there. I might take that space out. So action flow, provide power, create the diagram. We end up with our diagram there. Let's do a couple of things. We don't need to do too much work because we've actually done a lot of the work before. So let's grab this provide power. So from our diagram, from this one here, what we want to do is put the usages onto this diagram. And so that's that usage there. We can look at that and say, where is that located in the browser? And you can see now that that's highlighted the provide power, right? Now that's not up there at that definitions level because it's a usage. And so let's go into our diagram and grab that provide power and put it onto the diagram. And let's just make that a little bit bigger so we can see what's happening there. So what we can do now is to grab one of the other ones that we had, and let's just say, I think we'll get this generate torque one here again. Let's find that in the browser. We expect to find it. It's underneath that provide power one there. So let's just go generate torque. Let's put this up a little bit higher. Generate torque is the first thing we're going to do. And so let's generate that torque, and we'll put that into that one there. And again, let's make that a little bit bigger. And we'll keep it like that, I think, and we'll make this a little bit taller, and maybe this a little bit taller. And let's go and grab our next one, which is the, once we've generated the torque, we want to amplify the torque. So let's grab that amplified torque there and put that one on. And I must have done the wrong thing there. I'll go and get it from this one here. It's the amplified torque there. Find it in the browser. That's it there. My action flow, drag that one on, and that goes in. And use the tool, the layout ribbon, the same height and width. That might be a useful thing to do. And let's align their tops. We know we're going to be putting some little parameters on these things. So now let's start joining this thing up, but we can't join it up because we don't have our parameters displayed. And so let's do that for the outer one here. So we know that that one there is an item, and we've got that there. Let's right mouse click on that and say expose inherited usage. So this is where the inheritance comes out, Scott, that we've defined that at the action definition level, but there it is there now at the usage level. So again, let's just put that one up, put this one down about halfway kind of, and let's just do that quickly. And now let's do that for the other one for the provide power. Remember, with that selected, it wasn't an item, it was a reference. So some kind of SysML learning here going on. And I'm going to right mouse click on that and say expose inherited usage as well. Let's come over there, defaulted to that position. And let's put that one over here. Again, let's just very quickly do that. And, you know, we won't line that up at the moment yet. We'll line that up in a minute. And let's do the same thing for this one here. So again, the inherited feature, we've got a reference there. Let's go expose feature. There it is there. And that's the engine torque. So that's the out feature there. And we want the in feature as well, which will be an item there. And generate torque for the fuel command there. Let's add expose that one as well. Put that up there. Move that along a bit. So now we've got, you know, we're starting to, you know, get some useful things to start working with our diagram. Again, let's do the same thing with this one. Actually, I'm not sure that we added those ones there. So I'm pretty sure maybe we didn't add those parameters to this one. No, we didn't. We didn't add the parameters. Let's go and do that quickly. So that was in our action def one. So let's go, and that was the amplified torque. So we need to do that. Let me just have a look at that one. And amplified torque is going to have engine torque and transmission torque. So you just get the engine torque tick, and I'm just going to open up another. There. Yeah, let's go that engine torque. We'll grab that one, and we'll put that into this here. Now it's going to be a reference. Now these both are going to be references, not items, because we're coming through there. And let's add that one there. And the type again then is a torque value. See how that's conveniently defaulted to that for us. So we don't need to look for that. And there are a huge number of these ISQ and different elements there. So that's kind of useful. And let's do the same thing for transmission now as well. I'll just paste that one in. And again, the tool does the work for me. Very easy. But, you know, it's got, just in passing, there's all sorts of things about molecules and elements and atoms and things in here for, you know, chemistry, moles and all sorts of different things. Time and space. Very comprehensive, Scott. You know, you won't go looking for a, you know, some sort of type or subset to put on there. So we've got those done now. Let's expose the parameters again, compartment visibility, and let's this time just choose and do something a little bit different. And let's say they were both references. So let's put references on there. Okay to that. Now you see they pop up as references there.
Yes.
So now, but if we popped up parameters, so I'll just show you this because I think it's a really important thing to understand. Let's get rid of references and say, hey, we want those to be parameters. And so there's parameters, and we'll Go OK to that. There are no parameters.
None there because there's no in or out.
That's exactly right. So you've been obviously you've been listening, Scott. That's good to see. So let's go and have a look at this and say, look, this engine torque is going to be on the left-hand side there. So that's going to be an in parameter. And the transmission torque is going to be an out parameter. And you can see how suddenly that's just popped up in our parameters window. And if we looked at references now, let's have a look and see what happens with that. If we click on references as well, compartment visibility, because again, it's an interesting thing. So I'll go OK to that. And they don't come up because they're actually being converted into parameters now. So,
yes.
Anyway, that's good. We'll save that diagram now, and we'll go back to our other diagram now, and we should be able to now click on this one, and we've got remember this icon here that shows us the inherited ones, and we should be able to simply say expose as usage and expose as inherited usage. And let's go, that's the out one. That's the in one, that's the out one. So the torque engine's coming in, engine torque's coming in, and that one's going out. And again, we can, look at these things and make them a bit smaller, make our diagram a bit longer, things there. So now we need to, join these things up. I'm just going to put these here so we know what's going on. So we need to create the relationship between them, and the relationship is a flow usage. So let's have a look at that. And well, the first one actually is this binding one. Let's do that one first. It's a little bit more interesting, I guess. Let's line this little parameter up there across there. So we can use the quick linker. Let's see if we can find a binding one there. So there's a few things to look at. This might filter down as we work with the tool. We might, filter this down to just the ones that are permissible. So, keep watching this space. This is a pre-alpha version, so we're listing them all there. I can't see it there, but let's go and look at our relationships here. So I'm going to close that, and let's see if we can just use our toolbox to see if there's a bind there somewhere. Binding connector, it's a kernel relationship, binding connector usage. I think that's the one we want. There are some kernel relationships that I don't think have a counterpart at the moment in the SysML. Most of them do, but there are some that don't. So I'm going to use this binding connector usage. It doesn't look like a line, but I'm pretty sure it is actually a line there, and I'll draw that across there, and I'll say OK to that. You can see the equal sign pops up there. Let's do the same thing with this one. I think it's the same thing. The quick linker won't give us the answer, but let's see whether it does. And remember, what we wanted was a flow usage, and I can't see it there from memory. That again, this is a work in progress. So it's not a very difficult thing. We're just going to go to our one here and just go. Let's put flow in there as well. And there's a flow usage there. SysML relationship there. The flow usage one is the one that I want. Let's connect that up, and let's go OK to that. So that's the connector. Scott, let's give me a minute. We'll flick back to the other repository where we've got this thing finished, and look at that. So you can see how to do that now. You can follow that on. We haven't done all of the other elements, but you can flick that through and do those other ones. Let's go back and have a look now at our other repository, the finish one. So we just go back over this again. So there's the finished diagram. I'm going to put it into wide view. The portals is a really useful thing to do this. A number of different portals. I clicked on workspace before, but we've got recent places. Let's have a quick look at that. All the places that I've been recently, quite useful. We've got perspectives. So remember the tool. While Trechoro is a tool that's focused specifically on SysML2, the product owners and designers did, I think, a very clever thing, which was to contain the Trechoro SysML2, all that functionality in a kind of an isolation thing within the tool, so it's completely isolated. You can't contaminate these models with anything but SysML2. You can't go and start putting any other elements in there. They will only take SysML two elements. So it's a very pure implementation. It's not based on the UML. Again, it's not based on a profile. It is a completely new implementation. But cleverly, you are able to do other things within the tool. So Scott, I work quite a bit on the interface between engineering systems and software systems, and most cyber mechanical devices will have some type of software component, and you can define that right here inside the tool as well, without contaminating anything in the SysML2. But you can drag some SysML2 elements onto your software model to see how they link up. And also, if you've got some historical SysML 1.5 models, which invariably people will have at this stage, you can also view those inside this tool as well, which is incredibly powerful. But the SysML2 is completely isolated. I think about it like an isolation ward in a hospital. You can't bring things from the outside into that ward. It's very, very, very isolated and contained. So let's go back and look at this now. We were looking at our portals, and we weren't looking at perspectives, workspaces. That was just a bit of an aside, Scott, but I think it was interesting. Let's go into wide view there, and now we can see our diagram in full there. So
yep.
That's it, Scott. Remember, we're starting from this point here where we've got our diagram of our sort of structural view of these actions. Always important to have that first. You don't need to have these action defs on the diagram if you don't want to. You could leave those off. I could just go, delete on those, and they're taken off the diagram, in this one as well if I wanted to, and just show those. I can just go Control-Z on that and bring them back again. They're not removed from the model. I'm just not showing it. So it's up to each individual user, each team, each industry to decide, which diagrams and which views are going to be useful for, disseminating this information to the people that will build the system, the people that will manage it, the people that will govern it, and all those possibilities are within the tool. And that we use that to then go and often create this view here where we've got all of the actions that are being tied together by these flow relationships. Anyway, Scott, that's it for today for this behavioral view of the provide power action.
Very good. Thanks for demonstrating how to build that diagram of a behavioral view of actions within Trechoro. To our audience, thanks for joining us today, and we can encourage you to have a look at the structural view of actions video that's also available on the Sparx Systems YouTube channel. And if you have any questions about Trechoro or SysML2, you can reach out to Stephen using his credentials that are found in the video description below. So thanks, Stephen, for showing us how to build these models. We'll be automotive engineers in no time flat.
Let's hope so, Scott.